Anything I'd know?
No. They're all failures. Except the one I'm working on now. I think I'm getting it right.
Why now, all of a sudden?
Best not to question it. See? You are curious about me.
Well, you lead a curious life.
It's not so different from yours, I imagine. Lonely.
Loneliness is a choice.
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I am Luke and I am joined by the recently returned back to the UK. Say recently.
I was going to say, it definitely doesn't feel recently.
It was recent to, if you listen to the last episode, I guess. Daniel Checkley, how you doing?
Hello, yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine. We've got New Year and Christmas out the way, the holidays. Yeah. So, straight back to it. Yeah. How are you?
Not too bad. Just quiet Christmas, quiet New Year. I think everybody's sort of suffering the same sort of new wave, so as everyone's back indoors and back to not doing much.
I got COVID a day after returning from America, which on one hand is lucky because if I'd have got COVID over there, I'd have been stuck with a massive hotel bill. On the other hand,
Christmas as well.
Exactly. Yeah. On the other hand, it did mean I basically had to isolate throughout the entirety of the holidays. But you know what? You make the most of it, don't you? I watched a lot of Succession. I ate. That's basically what I did. And
that's Christmas, isn't it?
It was fine. Yeah. It was fine. I had a lovely time. Yeah. I hope all of our listeners had a lovely holiday season as well.
Yeah, hope it all went well. Yeah, similar kind of thing. Yeah, I think that is Christmas in a nutshell, isn't it? Just eating.
Eating's a massive part of it. Did you have a big Christmas dinner?
Tash cooked a dinner. We got it on early this year because there's nothing worse than when you finished, everything's done, and it's 5 o'clock, and it's well, that's the day over. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we did it early this year, which was nice. It was nice. Just we kept it within our means this year.
Did you have a lunch?
Yeah,
a lunchtime one.
Yeah, it's sort of about 12. We ate. So yeah, it's sort of But it's good. And you set up for the day because then you pretty much don't need to eat a meal for the rest of the day.
You will eat the chocolates.
I eat a lot of chocolate. Yeah, it's one of those where you I've been weighing myself weekly, and I thought that week I was like, I'll just have this week off. It's not worth. There's no need to look at those numbers. I know they're going to be off the bat, but oh well, it's one of those things. But no. But yeah, it's. I think with this year it was just one of those where it's just it was going to be a bit quiet. It was going to be a bit low key. You can still see people to a degree around here. Or have a party, I suppose, if you're...
Yeah.
Let's not get into political debt. Yeah, it was okay. It's
good.
It's the best way to do it. I'm looking forward to next year. If fingers crossed, this is the last of the sort of waves we have to worry about. Next year will be proper Christmas. I've missed going to the pub and seeing people, and you know what I mean. That'll be
Christmas Eve. I do like a good Christmas Eve pub trip. That's always fun.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I've always wanted to. I want to celebrate. Well, I'm not technically celebrate it, but just do all the things you do in a celebration of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I know our Christmas dinner is very similar to a Thanksgiving dinner in America. Yeah. Well, in fact, what does America have for Christmas dinner? It's not turkey, is it?
I think I think basically they have their big dinner in Thanksgiving. This is where every American listener is
let's slander everyone. Let's just go with what we think without any research.
From what I've heard from people, because
I think they have a big dinner. I just don't think it's turkey.
Yeah, I don't think it's turkey's not traditional for Christmas.
No, I think that's a Thanksgiving thing.
Yeah. But I'm not too sure. It might just be any meat. You know what I mean? Just a big lunch.
I really like the idea of having turkey and mac and cheese on the same sort of meal.
Yeah,
that sounds fantastic to me.
I always look at. I always think of what's it called now? The Chevy Chase film, National Lampoon.
Yes,
Christmas one. I always think of their massive table with all the stuff and like the potatoes. And all
Yeah.
this, obviously not the dry turkey, but you know all the other stuff
Yeah.
that they have. It just looks nice, like to have that big spread. But again, for us, when it's like 2 people having it, you're like, I don't want to make a spread for 12.
We'll do it. We'll all get together.
Yeah.
And we'll watch the stream of the parade, and it's
There
we'll
we
have a
go.
little Thanksgiving.
Basically, yeah.
We'll do it.
That might not be a bad idea instead of the other things. We probably shouldn't be talking about this. Is like personal things, but yeah.
No, let's just talk about our plans for the year.
yeah. So in February, I mean, quickly before we move off that as well, how was America?
America was fun. It was tiring. It was a lot of walking. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun as well. And luckily, I mean, COVID was sweeping New York at the time we was going there. But luckily, it didn't really affect us not in any major way. We still got to go see a Broadway show. And yeah, I mean, just really fun. Really fun. And there was this one, I'll say one moment. My favourite moment of the trip was we got a coach from Philadelphia about 4:00 to New York. So we arrived in New York at around about 7, 8-ish. It was just dark by the time we got there. And I got off the coach, and I very rarely feel overwhelmed, but I just did, because it's like the world, it's hard to explain, it's like the world had a whole new verticality to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was so weird. Like, you're so used to sort of being on this, on a level, and then there's a whole new dimension just opens up, and everything is so huge.
I had that, my dad laughed at me because I said that when I went to Birmingham for the first time, and I was about, 10 or something. I was like, whoa, it's like New York. And now I imagine if I went to New York, I'd be like, no, it's not.
You might have that same experience again now, like you can relive your
10
childhood.
But yeah, like I said, from the stuff that you sort of mentioned, it's in like a good trip.
A lot of fun.
The big question: did you go around in New Jersey asking people if you'd seen this drawn creature?
Obviously,
yeah.
That's all I did on the boardwalk. That's all I was doing.
That's why we were only there one day.
We had to get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. Like I said, it's nice to get away at the moment. I feel like that's something that we've all missed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of rigmarole and it's a lot of faff, like with all the testing you got to do, and it's the right thing to do. It keeps everyone safe. I can understand why it puts people off as well, though, because there is a lot of rigmarole. But God, you don't feel glad when you're there. Yeah, you've done it all. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah. Well, it sounds like a miracle that you
oh God.
that you got out there and got back and all fine. Shall we talk about this miracle of an episode of Milagro?
Let's do it.
So we are looking at episode 18 of season 6. Milagro is called, which we find out later is miracle in Spanish. Which would have been a bit of a giveaway if you spoke Spanish, I think. Sometimes a bit of like knowledge of language can get you quite far.
I mean, X-Files, I don't know many other shows that do this, but X-Files do this a lot, where they just title their shows a different language that features in the episode.
Literally one this series was called like Bad Water, wasn't it, basically?
I wonder whether they do that to add like a little bit of mystery to it. I don't really know. Like, it does seem like a strange decision to sort of just go, because it usually does feature, like, say, for example, if it's, I don't know, if it features a French person, the title will probably be in French.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it does sort of give you an indication of what's to go on. But it does feel weird that it's not like it's a major plot point.
No, not at all, really.
I think it just adds a little bit of extra mystery to the title.
Yeah, because in this, really, that like it's not like the main villain is Spanish or
anything.
No,
not at all.
Yeah, I don't know, yeah. Maybe there's a more... I guess that thing is just... the Milagro itself is kind of a Spanish sort of...
Maybe, yeah, could be.
Not an heirloom. What's it called now? Like a token or something?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah.
But anyway. It was directed by Kim Manners, written by John Shaban, Frank Spotnitz, and Chris Carter, so the Dream Team on writing duties. And the original air date was April the 18th, 1999. So to start, we see this guy who we later find out is called Philip Paget.
Yeah.
And he's sort of in his room, quite bare, with a typewriter and a storyboard, and he's just sort of pacing around, clearly has some kind of like writer's block or something like that, and he's unable to write. Well, that's the vibe I got from it anyway. Reminded me when I'm at work some days and you're just like trying to find anything, you're just wandering around. Just like, what am I doing now? He sort of lights a cigarette up and then goes into the bathroom and immediately throws his cigarette in. He has like a few smokes of it and then throws it away. You don't see like cigarettes in the toilets anymore, do you? That was like a pub classic a long time ago.
Oh, you're not allowed to smoke. At least not in England. Not allowed to smoke inside anymore. Yeah. That was a bit of a culture shock in America. Yeah, just being able to smoke at the casinos and stuff.
Oh, really? That. Inside? Like, that's mad. Yeah.
It was just you would not have that over here anymore.
It's literally you can't smoke anywhere indoors.
No, not in England.
Not legally, anyway.
yeah, exactly. But in America, to be fair, it's mostly been, from the places that I've been, most of the places you can't. But a lot of that's because of COVID as well.
Yeah,
like a lot of places were saying, just go outside if you want to smoke.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, yeah. But yeah, so...
By the way, I'm the new resident American expert.
Okay, yeah.
Who did we placed? Was it Meredith that got used to get in touch? Well, someone was getting in touch, should I say. I think that was the American expert that we had. I think
so. Yeah.
This is back at season 1. I think
it's a long time ago. Yeah. we apologise if we do forget these things. But...
Yeah, and sadly, you've been replaced because now I've got all the knowledge of America.
You've been to 1 state.
I've been to 3. Thank you very much.
It's the tri-state area. Is that what it's called? The tri-state area? I don't know.
I've got no idea.
I don't know. I just
need to ask our American expert.
Right, okay, checks. What's it called? So yeah, he lights up a cigarette, throws it into the toilet, and then he reaches into his chest and removes his own bloody heart, or a bloody heart.
Yeah.
And so we just see it pulsing as we go into the intro. Imagine if this was your first episode of The X-Files, you'd never like tuned in to watch, you'd be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it does. It definitely does the job of making you want to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
I thought this was a really strong opening of just, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
This is let's find out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really does encourage you to continue.
Yeah, it does add to the mystery, and to be fair, like sort of sets the tone for the rest of the episode, because I feel like a lot of it is left to interpretation.
I agree with that.
So after the intro, we see the same man walking down into the building's like basement. He opens up the incinerator, and we see a beating heart just in the fire. He just doesn't seem that bothered by it. It's just a normal day for him, I guess, and just throws in a paper bag. But we're not sure what's in there. I don't know if it actually says what's in there or not. Or we'd ever find out.
No, not really.
I don't think so. It's either maybe it's some manuscript or something like that, like we see later. Next, we see Scully entering the building. She goes into a lift, and we see this same man from earlier also getting the same lift, and they both go up to the same floor and have the most uncomfortable elevator sort of experience I've ever seen in my life.
He has no social skills whatsoever, just stares at her.
I mean, it's extra creepy because it's a guy staring at a woman. Let's not brush that under the carpet. But any person, if somebody was staring at you on the lift, you just like, what is this? Is this guy going to murder me? What's going on with this person?
There's things you don't do, isn't there?
Yeah, but I mean, well, also tear people's hearts out, I guess is.
I think staring at that lift is like maybe just a step above. Yeah.
So yeah, she's visibly uncomfortable by this. I mean, as anyone would be.
Especially because he gets off at the same floor and like sort of. There's that like sort of moment of, is he following me? Is he not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, as she sort of leaves, he sort of waits a bit and then it follows behind her. And we sort of see this like last sort of like glance that they give each other in this hallway before they both go to the doors that they're meant to be going in, which he is next door. And we find that Scully is actually going to Mulder's apartment, which I thought, of course, Mulder has an X-File living right next door to him. So Scully goes in and she's talking about that guy, and she doesn't like sort of call him out on it, but just sort of says, "Oh, who is he?" Like, and we find out that he's only moved in recently, and he's an author or a writer of some kind. We don't really know what he's sort of writing, really. He's just a writer. Yeah. Anyway, they sort of end that conversation and they start talking about the case that they're currently working. And we find out that they're on the hunt for a serial killer, I think, or at least somebody who's killed a few people. I think this is a second victim they talk about.
Yeah, they mention that it's an X-file. They mention that like the hearts of these victims are being removed, but no incision, no wound to be heard of. So basically, it can't be possible.
Yeah.
But they do keep flashing back to next door where he's listening into the conversations.
Yeah. He's sort of interested with what's going on. Mulder says that it's something called psychic surgery, which of course it is. I mean, it is actually.
It definitely is. Yeah.
I mean, probably not the strangest thing that actually happens in the episode by the end, but yeah, we see him looking through the air vents and listening in, and later that night we see him just thinking about what he's heard, and he's just sort of lying in bed smoking, just looking mysterious, basically in general. I thought at this point I was like, this guy's not going to speak this entire episode. I thought he was just going to be like a mute character, and I was like, ooh. Because he was already threatening as it was.
Yes,
earlier
he
on.
was.
And I thought, if he never speaks, that'll be quite a imposing character.
At the beginning, there's a very noir vibe about him, isn't there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, as we later find out, he does actually speak.
He does speak,
and he becomes more menacing for it.
Yeah. I mean, props to the actor who plays this guy. I don't have it right in front of me.
It's not someone that I've seen in anything else.
No, John Hawkes is the guy who plays him.
Okay.
Apparently, this will be a production note for later on, but apparently he auditioned for Pinker from the last episode.
Oh, okay.
Which again could have suited that role, but I think he works quite well in this as well. We see another scene. We see a Jeep sort of just parked in the inside this wooded area, and this is like this make-out area. I don't know what we would
make-out point.
Yeah. I don't know what we would call that, because we don't really say make-out, do we? Like
a dogging spot.
We just move straight to dogging. So we pull up and they're in a dogging spot. And I wonder if that is that a British term? I wonder if
dogging,
that's dogging. Is that will that translate? Just Google dogging.
It can't be. It can't be. I think that's a worldwide thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we see these two teenagers, Maggie and Kevin.
Which, by the way, they was saying when he I'm jumping ahead, but when they find his body, poor 16-year-old kid. No way was this guy 16. You're not 30.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where they've just cast an actor and said, "You're 16." He's like, okay, fair enough. I'll do that.
And he's got a very weird kissing technique as well.
Yeah. Which I think he's just.
He's putting his tongue in, and he's slipping on the tongue.
I've got a question for you after the end of this. But we'll let him get his comeuppance first. So yeah, they're sort of having an argument. This guy is quite forward.
Yeah.
And
I don't think we got enough follow up on these two.
No, well, they didn't need the follow up.
No, that's a good point. But I'd have liked to have seen what the background was. I'd like a
flashback to how they got to this point. Yeah. We see in the background this sort of guy with his hood up,
and you can sort of see the remnant of a mustache and a beard. Looks very similar to the writer.
Yeah. So they definitely leave it as ambiguous whether it's this guy or not. Yeah. So Maggie sort of gets a bit pissed off with his advances, shall we say, and goes out into the woods and wanders off. Kevin goes out after her and sort of tries to find her, but doesn't find her. He finds this hooded character who chases him and sort of pins him down. And we see this thing that he does where he basically we don't see exactly what he's doing, but he sort of just reaches down.
You can sort of figure it out, can't you? Yeah.
And then to top this off, we sort of cut back to this writer that we saw, Phil. Philip, I don't know. Phil sounds too casual. Phil, he's there writing this sort of what's happening, basically in detail.
Writing the story of it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's definitely made that Kevin is the bad guy in this, being a bit forward and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But
Oh, don't go all white knight on me, Luke.
No. I'm going the opposite way.
Okay.
Defend Kevin.
You defend it. Oh, okay. Wait,
No.
I don't think white knight was the right term. 'Cause that's kind of what I was going for.
No, I'm not defending Kevin because he is definitely.
Sorry, this is really off topic. White knight's definitely the wrong term. What's? Oh my god, my mind's gone blank. What's the term for like someone who's like against women and like murdered? Because, like,
incel.
Incel, yeah. Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm not incel.
That's it. I completely
100%.
forgot that term then.
No.
Yeah.
So I think this is not like clear cut because he. Right, stay with me. Stay with me.
Oh god, we're gonna get cancelled. Most of them want to get
She's
cancelled.
like, "What is this weird kissing technique?" And I'm like, "That's just French kissing. That's just what people do."
She doesn't want it.
Well, obviously, no.
You need
I'm
consent,
saying,
Luke.
I'm saying that, but I'm saying Maggie, she needs to travel the world a bit. It's okay to say no. It's all fine. That I'm completely on board with.
Yeah.
Saying no, stop it. He's dick for that. But also, I think she's a bit needs to smarten up the world.
I don't. Okay. Okay.
No.
No. So yeah, I thought the writer.
No, I don't. To be honest, it's one of those. It's clearly Kevin is a dick. You know what I mean? Like he is.
Yeah, it was very much your like. It was basically a carbon copy of the scene from Grease.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was just. I think you just had like this sort of weird. I suppose in sort of like what am I trying to say? Like your typical sort of high school story.
She's like the Sandy of like.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I'm not like having to go. I'm like, what is she not
Getting very defensive about all this, Luke.
But there's something later on that I read which it sounds better if it's coming from a woman's perspective. If I'm being completely honest.
What sounds better than you saying she should put out?
No. I'm trying to say that she's made out to be the virtuous like thing.
Yeah.
Like what's it? But I think that's a bad message to send out as well.
Okay.
That's my because they sort of do that with Scully, and I feel like it's a bad message to send out to women, especially.
Okay.
By saying, I don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm on thin ice right now. I'm trying to be defensive, if anything, but I'm saying that women can also be sexual. It's not like I don't think it's like, oh, you're the best person ever.
A black and white, yeah.
Yeah. If you're not like...
I get what you're saying. You're saying it really badly, but I get what you're saying, that like...
Also, I'm not defending Kevin, which is like... I need to make that point very clear.
What you're saying is, especially within TV stereotypes, so this is what I think, I don't want to project onto yourself, but when regards to like female stereotypes, being virtuous and innocent and sort of like just whiter than white clean.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
is the good woman.
Yeah,
and if you're sexual in any way, you're the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like the home wrecker.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a black and white. You can be.
You
can be a good guy that you're a good guy, or a good woman who likes sex, or you can be a virtuous bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not black and white. Yeah, I get that.
That is exactly what I'm trying to say.
But what you said was she was asking for it.
No, that's it. I'm definitely not. I didn't think we'd end up on this for so long. No. Oh my god, you've made me into a monster. I was fighting for women's corner, and now I've become an insult. Oh my god, this is how it starts. This is how it starts. I'm gonna have to log into 4chan now, and that's what's gonna happen.
Ooh, wow, I didn't realise I was gonna get onto this thin ice.
Well, the next episode you've got another problem to tackle, so good luck with that one. Oh, anyway. So, yeah, this guy dies. And he deserved it, the shit. We see Mulder and Scully talking over the phone about this guy who's died, Kevin. And they start talking about what the reasoning could be, or why this has happened. Because Scully's at the office at this time. I think Mulder's on the actual scene. He's sort of like, he's investigating it. And we see... an unmarked envelope come under the office door. And inside, there's this like pendant, which we find out is a Milagro, which is the name of the episode, which is, as we said, Spanish for miracle. We see Scully sort of observing it, and she's sort of a bit confused as to why this has come. Initially, she thinks, oh, maybe it's for Mulder for the case or something like that. But then Mulder, I think, jokingly says that it's from a secret admirer or something, which, I mean...
It does have a heart on it as well.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously they are linking it to the case, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get this, like... It's quite a strange scene, actually, where it sort of freezes or, like, slows down. And then we see the voiceover of what we find out is Philip describing how Scully feels about this.
Mm-hmm. Her prompt mind ran through the Golconda of possibilities. Was this trinket from the killer? Was there a message contained in its equivocal symbolism? Was he a religious fanatic who had in fervid haste licked the envelope, leaving the telltale DNA that would begin his unraveling? She had a condign certainty the killer was a male, and now as she held the cold metal at her fingertips, she imagined him doing the same, trying to picture his face. It would be a plain face, an average face, a face people would be prone to trust. She knew this inherently, being naturally trusting herself. But the image she conjured up was no better than the useless sketch composites that littered her files. Preconsciously, she knew this wasn't her strength as an investigator. She was a marshal of cold facts, quick to organize, connect, shuffle, reorder, and synthesize their relative hard values into discrete categories. Imprecision would only invite sexist criticism, that she was soft, malleable, not up to her male counterparts. Even now, as she pushed an errant strand of Titian hair behind her ear, she worried her partner would know instinctively what she could only guess. To be thought of as simply a beautiful woman was bridling, unthinkable. But she was beautiful, fatally, stunningly prepossessing. Yet the compensatory respect she commanded only deepened the yearnings of her heart. To let it open. To let someone in.
But yeah, there's a lot of information here where it's sort of... It's, again, weird, because obviously we thought this guy is just a creepy stalker.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the way that you sort of... That's what you're led to believe. But he's actually sort of talking about how... how difficult it is for her in like this environment.
You know, it's interesting because I have a few thoughts about this episode, and I think you hit the nail on the head that you can interpret it a few different ways. I'm kind of not sure whether any of this actually happens.
Yeah.
Because there are, like, you can look at it from a perspective of, like, maybe there wasn't an X-File, maybe there's just a guy that got obsessed with Scully and is writing a story about Scully, and what we're seeing is the story playing out.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is probably one of the biggest indicators that is the case, which is when he writes about it and he talks about it and you get like that slow motion scene and you get Scully and you can see the version of Scully that he sees, which is the slowly flicking her hair behind her ears and like just like luscious lips, just, you know what I mean? Like really slowly, like just, and it was very much like an idolization of Scully.
Yeah.
Which isn't Scully really, like, and it made me think, are we seeing the real version of what's going on, or are we seeing a narrated version of what he believes? Because it did feel like his perfect version of Scully.
And I mean, there's a scene later that definitely feels much more like that as well.
Yeah, exactly, which is interesting, I thought.
Yeah. I thought it was... Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace because, again, if we're taking it from his point of view as well, he's obviously going to paint himself as the daring feminist who's like sort of sticking up for her when he actually might just be a bit of a creep.
Yeah, you could take the leaf out of it.
Like, no. I feel like I'm never saying anything. But anyway. So we sort of get this scene where he's talking through all this, and he's actually got more information about the case as well. Is another thing in this, so he has like quite an intimate knowledge of what's actually happening.
Seems to know exactly what's going on and what they're thinking at that time as well.
Yeah.
Again, probably another indicator that maybe this is his story. But again, there are things in this that indicate the other way as well, and I'm not sure which way I lean, to be honest.
Yeah, it's definitely... I feel by the end of the episode, a lot is left open to your own sort of interpretation from it, especially with who we find out is the villain, who that's impossible to explain, very hard to explain. So, anyway, after this, we see Scully basically look out for more information about this Milagro that she's been sent. She goes to a church, I think it's a Catholic church nearby, and we see that the Philip is also there as well, and they get into a conversation. He admits that he sent her this pendant, and he also admits basically he's been following her. I don't know for how long he initially says, because he basically says that the reason he's living in Mulder's building is because he couldn't get an apartment near to Scully's building. Yeah. So
he's very upfront that he has a fascination with Scully, and he seems to know everything about her based on the fact that he's got into her head, and he's trying to understand her from a writer's perspective. Yeah. I thought this scene was fantastic. Yeah. I thought Gillian Anderson's acting, like, this is a show. I mean, we've watched almost 6 seasons of this show now, where they have monsters, vampires, werewolves, aliens, the lot. This is the scariest thing I think I've seen in the show. Yeah. Where it was just someone being made to feel so uncomfortable to just being themselves because of it was just like this invasion of their life. I thought this was fantastic. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think as a guest star, he's arguably one of the better ones that we've had, just because of how menacing he is for what little he actually does. Like, he physically doesn't actually do anything to anyone, but the way he sort of talks and it's like that Hannibal Lecter kind of like,
I get that.
Hannibal Lecter obviously does heinous things as well, but he's scary by his presence, not by what he does really. I just thought it was really well acted by, and I think Gillian Anderson throughout this episode, superb. It's like a brilliant showcase of her acting ability as well. So I thought it was really good as well. Seems weird summing up as really good.
No, it's true though. Like, when she started to sort of like get tears in her eyes as she's listening to like him just dissect her entire life, I felt scared for her. Like, it's just a horrible feeling. And you know why I think it hits home so much? It's because werewolves aren't real. Yeah. Aliens aren't real. Vampires aren't real. This is real. And this is what happens. This is what happens to people and women in particular. And it's just terrifying, just so scary.
That's the thing. All jokes aside of what we just said, this is like such a big issue, like, of what's happening now. Like, we see with this like Sarah Everard stuff and stuff like that. Yeah. It's such a like I mean it's not a new thing at all, but it's still such a big issue now. As well, it feels like he's lured her there as well, because he picked up on the fact that she's Catholic by a cross, and did he just give her this Milagro thing to try and like entice her here? And it seems that's what he's done. It's just really sinister sort of figure. I feel like this, and so obviously we had Trevor in the last, not Trevor, Pinker in the Trevor episode. That same kind of like sort of menace, but I think this guy does it even better.
I really enjoyed this performance.
We see Mulder and Scully in the autopsy. Did like earlier as well. So similar kind of thing that Mulder's basically dictating that she needs to do an autopsy of this guy, and she's this was on the phone earlier. She's a bit hesitant to do that because it's like, why are you dictating my schedule? But eventually she does go to the autopsy, and Mulder comments that she's quite late. I think he even says that he was going to start slicing and dicing himself. Yeah. So they meet in the autopsy, and they continue discussing the case. This victim has the exact same thing. Yeah. Heart removed, but no obvious like sort of surgery. And Scully starts talking about what's just happened to her basically, and how she's sort of encountered him in the church. And Mulder is sort of, because initially he's dismissive that this guy is related.
Yeah.
And I think even at this point, he still doesn't believe that he's involved. He just thinks, oh, it's this guy's just being audacious, basically.
Yeah.
He's not actually the murderer, which is weird because it's usually the other way around, this sort of skepticism. It definitely feels like through this episode, like they sort of flip the roles. And it's weird that this is a arguably fairly grounded. I mean, obviously not with what we've
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like the actual villain in it is fairly grounded of like just this like stalkery kind of person. And it is interesting to see Mulder not be as sort of believing in this when he's more than happy to believe that like he's a psychic surgeon. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but anyway.
for sure.
We see later on that Mulder thinks I'll do some investigation into it, and he immediately goes and steals his mail.
Yeah.
And just breaks into his sort of mailbox.
But this is the thing as well, like, he's writing about it at the same time, and he knows what Mulder's done.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think that, like, how would he have known that unless... Is Mulder stealing his mail, or is this just a sort of situation that he's created and he's writing down?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Potentially, yeah. Because it seems out of character that Mulder is so adamant that it's not part of the case and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
is this like mischaracterization, like from the author? Who knows? Like it could be either way. But yeah, so he steals some of his mail, and he actually does encounter Philip as well, and. I can't remember exactly what they say, but there's definitely sort of these hints of jealousy between the two. They're sort of having a conversation, and I think you can tell that Mulder's on the defensive talking to him, knowing that he's taking an interest in Scully. But they both go into their own apartment buildings and just leave it at that. We then see quite a scene. We see Paget talking about, he's writing this story. And he's basically talking about how he's enticing Scully into his room, which we sort of see later. And it goes on to describe this quite sexual encounter between the two.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to get so steamy.
No.
It's the first time we've sort of seen anything of this like sort of level in it, I think.
Yeah, I can't think
we've had like romance suggested, but it's not like a sort of like fleeting one-off kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, what's there to say about this scene?
I think this scene serves to blur the lines as well.
Yeah.
And just to sort of cement the idea that a lot of this isn't said. See, it's hard to talk about because I don't really know what's real and what's not. Because I'm not sure whether like it can be taken at face value as well.
Oh yeah, this scene it definitely read to me as this is something from his book, but it's like
this scene for sure.
Yeah,
but like I'm talking about like the rest of the episode. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know how much to read into this scene. But yeah, he's full on in his own world at this point.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We then actually do see Scully arrive, and she sort of, I can't remember if she knocks on Paget's door, doesn't she, to like sort of talk to him.
Yeah, she goes to speak to Mulder, but then she ends up going to Paget because she, and all the while you hear sort of like the narration of Paget, like saying how curiosity's getting the better of her, and
and she goes into his apartment and starts talking to him more, and basically he offers her in for coffee or something, doesn't he? In the end, that's how he gets her into it. He realizes, or she realizes that he doesn't have any furniture apart from his sort of typewriter, his desk, and a bed, which he immediately says we'll sit down on the bed, or like they'll go, which just reminded me of Dennis from Always Sunny, you know, really, like just trying to like cut straight to the bedroom. But yeah, they continue to talk more, and again we have another scene like in the church, where we find some more about how he thinks that she is lonely and wants some like male attention, essentially.
Also, he reveals that he's writing the book about her.
Yeah.
And like she can sift through like 100 pages, probably even more, 200-300 pages of his writings about her, which he says it's not finished and you can't read it just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the thing with the light bulb as well? What was that about? What did you get anything from that?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, because he has to. The light bulb goes. He immediately changes and it blows again.
Yeah,
I didn't get that.
It felt significant, but I didn't really take anything from it.
I think it's meant to be this kind of like, because there's a lot of like religious like imagery in it with like the heart, because that's like it's a famous picture of Mary, isn't it?
Yeah,
with the heart. So I don't know if it's meant to allude to the fact that he's somehow like blessed or something.
Yeah, I didn't really know what. I couldn't really figure out the meaning behind it.
No, I wasn't sure either on that one. So they continue talking, and there was one line in here as well that I liked from Scully, where he calls her out. Well, didn't call her out, but they sort of have this discussion about her being lonely, and she. I don't feel like she fully believes it, but she says her loneliness is a choice, that she's choosing this. And again, he sort of, I guess, I hadn't thought about it like this, but this, like, of whether you believe that it's actually happening or not. Yeah. Yeah, whether that could come into it, or whether it's, like, categorizing her as, like, a bit more, like, I don't know what the word would be, but describing her as, like, sort of, a bit sad. But anyway, they continue having this conversation, and Mulder's overheard them talking, which that seems mental that you can just listen into some next doors, like just for a vent. That's crazy. Like I don't know if that's
because obviously I've got an interest in traveling to Japan at some point, and apparently Japanese buildings are notorious for it, where the walls are like paper.
Oh, really?
And you can hear everything from the other, like, especially some of the...
They are paper in some, aren't
they? But especially like in some like the taller buildings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like watch a few blogs from people that sort of live over there, and it is insane how like different buildings, man.
Yeah. Crazy. I think we're just used to just big brick buildings.
Brick buildings, yeah.
So, but yeah, Mulder bursts in and arrests him because in the mail was, I think it was transcripts or something from his book. Basically, he's somehow got a copy of his book, and has been reading about these sort of murders that are described in there.
Yeah.
So he arrests him for this. But while this is happening, we see elsewhere, he's in jail. We see that Maggie is at the grave of Kevin from earlier. And we see in the distance, she's sort of like mourning over him. And we see in the distance this guy attack Maggie now and do the same thing to...
And obviously whilst he's in prison, so that it can't be the same person.
Yeah, immediately realise that he's got a pretty watertight alibi, basically. We see Mulder on the case as well when they get called out to sort of investigate. He comes out in these like sort of very 90s like sunglasses. They were like the small ones. They look like tanning sunglasses.
Oh, like look like skiing sunglasses, and they like wrap around. Yeah.
I was like, this is so 90s. But they're sort of investigating the scene. But they can't. I think they can't find the body initially, and then Mulder sees a guy.
They never explain how he knows it's in the truck.
No, he just does.
Or do they? And I missed it.
It's his Mulder sense tingling, isn't it?
Yeah, because like they make a joke about like Scully says to him like, "How do you want to tell me how you know he was in the truck?" And he just brushes it off.
Maybe it was in the book. Maybe it was described in the book.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, it's not really explained 100%. But he gets a feeling that it's in the back of this truck with all like dead flowers and stuff like that. He tackles some guy, just some random guy.
Poor guy.
I did this part. He just jumps into this like flatbed truck, and I was just thinking, the dry cleaning bills for being an FBI agent must be ridiculous because he's like constantly like rolling around in the dirt. And it's like, it's fine if you're wearing a jumper. Just logistically, I'm thinking I've been doing a lot of like cleaning. Lately.
That's got to be paid for by the company. That's got to be expenses, surely.
Does that come out your wages though?
No, I don't think so. It can't do, surely.
Who knows? I mean, that's a mystery we'll never find out.
If they enforce a uniform,
so
if they say you have to be in tie and jackets, then they've got to give expensive for like any. They've got to. Otherwise, like, just come out in overalls. Sort sweet.
I'd like to say, I don't know, under like American employee laws, because I know like their like employment stuff is a bit more like off kilter.
Yeah.
Like, but then again, if you're the FBI, it's government, isn't it? So like,
You'd think so.
I didn't. We got a big conversation about that.
Yeah.
Dry cleaning.
Oh,
I'd rather talk about that though at the moment than get myself in hot water.
Yeah.
So because of this, obviously, they know that Paget can't be the killer now, and they don't have any other evidence really. So they sort of concoct this plan to basically let him go, and hope that he will sort of lead them back to who might be doing these murders. When he's released, Paget says something interesting.
I made a mistake myself.
What's that, Mr. Paget?
In my book, I'd written that Agent Scully falls in love, but that's obviously impossible. Agent Scully is already in love.
Yeah, this was an interesting segment, actually. And it's part of a wider narrative. I actually think of the last 5 and maybe like the next 5 once we've seen them. I've only seen a few more after this, but they seem to be ramping up this Scully Mulder. Will they? Won't they?
It seems to have happened a lot recently, like a lot of times.
Funnily enough, tends to be focused on Scully as well.
Yeah.
Which, if I was to hazard a guess, I think Mulder's more head over heels for Scully than Scully is for Mulder. I mean, I think they both like each other, but I think Scully's more content being on her own. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong.
No, I don't know. I see it as the other way. I feel like Scully's like, because we've seen previously like Scully yearn for like a normal life. So like I feel like she's more open to the idea of a relationship. But the way I see it is Mulder is just like beeline. I just want to find out conspiracies. And stuff like that.
You can get distracted.
I feel like he's definitely got that sort of same feeling. But when you're distracted by other things, I feel like he's not like seeing what's right.
It's interesting we've both taken like a different perspective on that.
Yeah.
And that's quite cool actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, they seem to definitely be focusing in on Scully realizing that she loves Mulder. Or if not realizing, accepting that she loves Mulder. Yeah. It's
one of those where it's like, it's got to happen at the end of this series.
It's gotta,
surely.
Yeah, it's
surely.
Gotta.
I mean, we'll be saying this at the end of the series. Why did it not happen? But it definitely feels like it's ramping up to the point now where it's like, they have to take that next step now, I feel like. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We go back to the apartment and we see Paget basically. Initially, he's just like sort of writing more. And there's a knock at the door. And we find out that the killer that we saw from earlier has arrived at the door. And we find out this is something they'd mentioned earlier. It's a deceased Brazilian surgeon called Ken Niciomento.
Yeah.
And they sort of brought it up earlier how he could do this psychic surgery, or they said that he could do it. So obviously he shouldn't be alive because he died in like 92, I think they said, or something along those lines. So now we're sort of led to believe that this writer has somehow brought this character to life.
Imagined him to life. Yeah.
This is not explained at all. And
no.
This is the one wrinkle of the episode where I was like, I don't know if it needs to be explained or if it's better not being explained, because I feel like an explanation could make it even stupider.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You could see... I don't know. You could see this as... This is real, and what he imagines comes to life if he imagines it vividly enough. And that's why when he eventually burns the pages, that ends the spell, or whatever you want to call it.
Whatever,
or you could also see him, the whole episode being a story of his, and as soon as he stops writing the story, that's when like danger stops happening, because he just go like... He just throws away the ending, and that's why Scully, because he doesn't want to kill Scully off. I don't know. It's an interesting one. It doesn't really give you a clear ending at all.
Yeah, that's what I came away from it from. Of like, I don't know how it was meant to be sort of taken at the end. It's definitely open.
Yeah, I think sometimes, though, I think it's a little bit to its detriment.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan of, like, open-ended, like, your own interpretation of films and stuff like that. I'm usually a fan of that sort of stuff. But it has to have a solid foundation. It can't just be... You can't just put anything on the screen and say, well,
So
get what you want from it.
I always think of, like, what's that film now, that horror film, It Follows.
Yes.
That is, like, a brilliant open-ended thing, because it's, like, something, like, spoilers for It Follows, I guess.
Fine.
Yeah. This thing is constantly throughout the film following the main character, and at the end you think, oh, they finally killed it, got rid of it, and then right in the distance you see somebody walking, and you go, oh, is that somebody walking? Is that is that? And you have no idea what to make of that, and it's completely open to you. But they've done all the groundwork up until that by, like, doing it throughout the the rest of the film. With this, it just seemed to feel like there was no sort of, like, lead up to, oh, he's bringing things to life in the what's it. I mean, maybe you could read that as, like, these scenes that he's created. Maybe that was it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was clear enough.
No, it does feel a little bit haphazardly just put together.
Yeah. So I do feel like, in this instance, I feel like this open-ended ending was a bit...
Yeah.
Anyway, but we should probably get to explain what happens.
Yes, let's do it.
So yeah, we see these having a conversation about why these killings are happening. Basically theorizing that he's just a writer who needs a story. And he doesn't want to continue with it because he realizes that this story is going to end with Scully's murder. So Paget doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He takes it down to the incinerator to burn it. And Mulder sort of cuts him off because he thinks he's just destroying evidence at this point. However, we see Scully go back to basically confront Paget, and this what's his name, Nascimento, is there waiting, and he attacks Scully. We have this sort of like
starts like whipping your heart out.
Yeah, right. We actually see like blood starting to come out of her chest. And then she starts to shoot him, but obviously he's not a real thing, essentially. Yeah. So the bullets are just going through him, not stopping. Mulder goes running up to try and find out what this is. And while this happens, Paget throws the manuscript into the fire, which means that this guy disappears. Mulder does get to Scully after this has happened, and she's sort of shaken. She's just terrified, basically. And they sort of embrace. And again, we get this like sort of nice embrace between the two where, again, they've gone through this sort of experience. And they've opened up more of their emotions to one another. And just before the ending, we have this like final like voiceover from Paget, where he's basically saying how he's given... what was the word he uses now? He's given what he couldn't receive. Yeah, is the quote. So he's given his life, his love, because he couldn't receive.
Yeah, and it's almost like he's in his mind he sacrificed himself so that Scully could realize something about Mulder. Maybe.
Yeah.
Very interesting episode.
Yeah.
I thought this episode. I liked the idea that you could sort of take it a couple of different ways. Never really gets explained to satisfaction for myself. Mm-hmm. And that's not necessarily an issue, but when, like, any theory that you have, you can't really put a concrete, like, ending to it, because, like, all the theories have holes in it. Yeah. Which that's the problem there. It shouldn't have holes. You should be able to sort of go work it through in its entirety in any way you think about it.
Yeah, 100%.
However, saying that, I thought... Paget was fantastic. I thought he was such a menacing villain. Even if he was a villain, like the idea of him, I thought was so scary. I really enjoyed it and definitely brought the episode back up for me.
Yeah, 100%. I think the plot of the episode is probably the only bit that laid down for me. I thought the actual like everything else, like the atmosphere and the acting and everything else was really good in this episode. I thought John Hawkes, who played Paget, and Gillian Anderson were absolutely amazing in this episode. And it just
Gillian Anderson is killing it this season. I mean, she always does, but she is like. Usually, I'm like, both like Duchovny and Anderson and whatnot. But Anderson in particular this season, I think, is killing it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we've said this from the day dot, really, that we're sort of instantly smitten with Mulder and David Duchovny. But Gillian Anderson, I think, over time has like impressed us more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, in the way that
I would agree. I think Scully's definitely my favourite character.
What is
for
it?
Sure.
What is it now? Like Duchovny's a dog. Anderson is a cat.
What?
Apparently, dogs you can get on with them straight away.
Okay, I see that.
Cats are like hard to get on with.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Over time, you end up loving them.
You
more,
get that
apparently.
love. Yeah, I like that.
Maybe that's.
Dogs and cats.
I heard Kenny Omega, the wrestler of all people, explain that, and I was like, oh. But yeah, I liked as well. It felt like a thriller. Like it had the dread of like a thriller. Like it was always like, what is this guy's real motives and stuff like that. It's, I really enjoyed it.
Luke's production notes.
The idea behind the episode occurred when John Shaban and Frank Spotnitz were discussing how stressful being an X-Files writer could be. The episode's theme of someone thinking of something so much that has become real was familiar to anyone who'd written a script, Shaban later explained.
Yeah, I get that. I do like. I liked all the references to like the idea of being a writer as well. Like I really enjoyed him opening his window to a brick wall. You know what I mean? And like the idea of like, this is what our life is like sometimes. We don't have anything, we don't have any furniture, we don't have any distractions, and yet we still can't get anything done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely feels like a personal kind of
Yeah. You can imagine some of the writers for the show definitely feeling like my house is basically a desk with a computer.
Shaban and Spotnitz created a rough draft for the episode and then sent it to series creator Chris Carter, who was busy shooting the pilot for the new television series Harsh Realm. It feels like he's doing so many TV shows at this time.
He's got many fingers and many pies, Luke.
Carter rewrote portions of the script, including the ending, to show that the writer, although confused, does indeed have love in his heart. So I wonder if he was more of a monster in the original version.
He's like, the writer can't be a monster.
You're too hard on yourself, guys. Spotnitz later called the episode personal. He noted that the cards that hang on Paget's wall are put up to emulate the original writing style of the X-Files, saying the cards that are on the writer's wall are in the same format that we wrote the X-Files in. We would use these same cards when figuring out stories for the series. Spotnitz wrote the notes himself because the prop guy couldn't do it as well as we could, because that's really the way we did it. It's a very emotional love story, and it's really about our love for these characters as writers.
See, now this is making me enjoy the episode more. I like the idea of that. Yeah, that's cool.
I do find sometimes, like, reading some of these, like, you go, oh, okay, that makes more sense.
It makes it click
like,
for you,
I mean, outside of doing this, is one thing I always do. Whenever I've finished a film, I always go on Wikipedia. One, to make sure I've definitely got what happened right. Because there's sometimes, do you know when you finish a film and you go, did I get that? Like, was that... Not if it's like, I don't know, Paddington or something like that. But like, if you watch like some films where it's like really complex and like the ending's like vague, you're like, did I get that? Was what meant to happen? I mean, that's flawed as well because you're going off somebody's version of things. But there is sometimes like where it can help just reading about what like the production and stuff like that. Yeah. I'd recommend it to anyone. Several weeks before production of Milagro started, John Hawkes had auditioned for the part of Pinker Rawls in the episode Trevor. Both Chris Carter and Frank Spotnitz felt that Hawke was not right for the part, however. They believed he possessed a dignity and simplicity, and so they wrote the part of Philip Paget specifically for him, as they believed the acting would prevent the main character in Milagro from becoming a one-dimensional stock villain.
Yeah, I think that's spot on.
Yeah,
I think definitely the strength of the episode for sure.
Because I feel like Pinker was meant to be a bit more hateable, you know what I mean, than this guy. Yeah. So yeah, he needed somebody who was a bit more clear cut as a villain, I guess. And
again, I know I'm sort of just rehashing what I've already said, but another reason why he's so scary is that he's not just like this hateable like figure. He's just your average guy on the street. Do you know what I mean?
It could be anyone.
Yeah. Like it's easy to just chalk it up to, oh, he's evil. If he's like, you know, twirling his mustache as he's saying it, then it's easy to go, oh, there's a psychopath here, and that's why.
Exactly.
That's not what makes him scary. What makes him scary is he's the next door neighbour.
Yeah, exactly.
Who just moved in.
Yeah. And on the outside looking in, he's just slightly intense, normal guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The production for Milagro was decidedly low budget due to its intimate and personality-driven nature. Director Kim Manners sought to film most of the episode very simply because he wanted the characters to carry it. Manners wanted to frame the opening scene in a way that told the story in a series of images, and so utilized quick cuts between shots. Many of the scenes, such as the opening pan, were created by means of a crane shot. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like a storyboard. Really.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't remember this scene, but I cut out all the other stuff because there's just an interesting fact about David Duchovny. So there's apparently a scene where Mulder runs. Do you remember that in this episode?
Yeah, when he's chasing after the guy.
Oh yeah. It doesn't. If it said chases after.
Yeah.
It just said Mulder runs. No, I can't remember. I imagine him just going like on a jog or something. The sequence in which Mulder runs was shot on a motorcycle. The production staff decided to use motorcycles because Duchovny had been able to outrun 2 horses in the 4th season episode Tungusk. What a champion!
I bet you it wasn't for filming either.
Yeah,
he's just nudging his the person next to him. Bet you I could outrun this horse.
Yes, and there. Oh, fair play. The sequence in which Paget rips his heart out was created with a rubber heart. The blood that leaks from his chest was added to hide the fact that the crew was doing a little sleight of hand. I guess just passing the heart through. And finally, for his score, Mark Snow incorporated human heartbeats so to complement the theme of the episode. During the graveyard scene, one of the tombstones is marked Salinger, with the names Nicholas and Diana visible underneath, a reference to the parents of Charlie, Bailey, Julie, and Claudia and Owen from the Fox television show Party of Five. So there you go. Never heard of that show, but
no, and I can't say that I paid too much attention to the score either.
I didn't hear the heartbeats, but that's an interesting.
It's interesting. Yeah. This probably isn't the most professional way to go about it.
Yeah.
I almost make a conscious decision not to go out looking for the score. Yeah. I feel like a good score either elevates it without you knowing it, which in and of itself should be, it's in the background, you don't even have to worry about it, and you won't notice it because it's just elevating the scene, or you will notice it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if it's somewhere in the middle, then it hasn't done its job.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have to go looking for that. It's a bit of a weird one because like we are reviewing stuff, so I should be looking out for it. But I think with score, it almost...
It is, yeah.
It needs to do one thing or the other and not in the middle. So I didn't really notice it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
No, I think that's probably the perfect way to describe it.
It stinks.
Welcome to the Critic's Files.
This is a tough one. I think I might go for a nice even 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Would I go back and watch this one again? I'm not sure. I'd probably go back to watch that church scene again. I enjoyed I enjoyed that part. But apart from that, probably not now.
See, I wrote my score down after immediately watching it, and now looking back, I'm like, would I have given it this after our discussion? I'm not sure, but who knows? I give it an 8.
Okay.
So, not too far off, I think.
It's one of them weird episodes where I don't think you can, like, between 6 and, like, maybe 8.5, you can't really say moan at any of those scores.
No, it's not one of those. If somebody said it's the best episode I've ever seen, I'd be like, that's a bit strong.
It's weird. I wonder why. Yeah,
but an 8 or like a 7 is sort of acceptable. Which, funnily enough, it got a 7.9 from 3,454.
Okay, cool.
There was a note as well on Wikipedia, which I noted down because I thought it was interesting. this is where my point came from, because I read this after I'd watched it and I was like, that makes a lot of sense actually. So
Are you going back to being an incel?
We go back. No, Gillian Anderson said something here, so
Oh,
it came from
okay.
the horses. The horse's back. Horse's
You,
back.
you can't call him a horse.
Horses. Is that the right scene?
Please,
That's not right.
Luke, stop. This podcast has only got so much legs. It can't
That's not
survive
the, hang
everything.
on, wait there. That's not the right scene, is it?
Straight from the horse's mouth.
Straight from the horse. Okay. I was. Do you know when reality's collapsing around you? Like, what's going on?
Okay.
Anyway, in my head, I mixed
What
up.
a hill to die on. What a hill.
In my head, I mixed up. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth, and straight from the horse's mouth. Is that like
You got me doubting it now. Let me have a quick look.
from the source? Let's cut out all this metaphor. It comes straight from the source. Right. So, Scully's portrayal in the episode was given special attention. Stegall noted that if Milagro has one message about perception, was there a saying? Did you find out?
It was from the horse's mouth.
Okay,
yeah.
that's all right then. That's before I was like, everything I know is wrong. Stegall noted that if Milagro had one message about perception, it is shown in Scully, who is seen through everyone's eyes, Mulder's, Paget's, and even Nascimento, but her own. Ultimately, we can't know which one of these portraits of the characters are right. Maybe none of them are. It's a bravado performance from Gillian Anderson, well matched by Duchovny's low-key Mulder, acting on his instincts. And then there's some other points here where these are different reviewers, like opinions on it. Hadlin argued that the episode reduces Scully to a victim waiting to find out which handsome man will rescue her. Helford, in her book Fantasy Girls Gender in the New Universe of New Universe of Science Fiction and Fantasy Television
Catchy.
accused the show of reinforcing the stereotype of independent women as lonely, neurotic, and nostalgic for sexual attraction for men. Anderson herself felt that the character needs to loosen up. She was once approached by a fan who applauded Scully as the epitome of womanhood because she's a character who not only can kick ass, but she works with Mulder without jumping him. Anderson in return jokingly replied, so the epitome of womanhood is sexual restraint. I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's like coming, like, it's more of like Scully's like character in the episode. But I did think it's interesting that sort of in the 90s and stuff, like when this was made, like you would sort of look at the way the characters are portrayed and go, is this like, you know, whatever the stereotype it is. But like, it's interesting that even Gillian Anderson is like herself thinking, is this correct? Is this like what I would want to present?
I don't see the character. I think I personally think that she plays a fantastic character, and like especially a woman character in that time period. I don't, and I completely understand what you said. Like, restraint shouldn't be
a virtue.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't see this, me personally, and of course,
it's all
who am I to argue with
yeah.
the person who portrays her?
Yeah,
but I don't see Scully acting on restraint. I see Scully as not knowing what she wants, the same as Mulder doesn't know what he wants.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I see Scully as quite a strong character in the fact that I think Mulder is far more likely to get caught up in that sort of not knowing and sort of getting confused about like what he wants from Scully and whatnot than Scully is. I feel like Scully is very steadfast, and yet whether she loves someone or not, like that's a human emotion. That's not like a woman emotion. That's a human emotion. And whether she loves Mulder or not, or in what way, or to what extent, she knows what she wants. She puts her career first.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't see that side of things. I think it's a very well written character, but people portray it in different ways. And of course, Gillian Anderson might not even think that herself. She might be reacting to the fact that that's the way a lot of people took her character.
Yeah.
Because of course she didn't play it like that. Obviously that wasn't her intentions. It is very interesting.
I do like...
It's still a problem today as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I do find it interesting, though, like, hearing these different, like, opinions on her portrayal of the character, especially in this episode, but, you know, in across the series as a whole. from herself, from other like reviews and stuff like that. It's interesting because we've said this before. It gets a bit boring if everybody's like, yeah, it's amazing this, but it's interesting if there's different wrinkles to like people's like opinions on stuff. And also, I do want to caveat this and end it with, we are very aware that we're discussing the stereotypes of a female character as two straight white men.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so who are we to say?
Yeah, it's not for us, but yeah.
As a sort of ending to my thoughts on it,
yeah,
I think the best way to describe it is, I thought this episode in particular was very noticeable, and I mentioned it during the episode.
Yeah,
for maybe not sexualization, but for like the sort of the desiring way that they shot Scully.
Yeah,
I thought this episode, it stood out to me in this episode, but I think it stood out to me because that's not the way she's been portrayed the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that speaks volumes, and the fact of she doesn't get like that treatment, or not very rarely does she get that treatment
often,
where you get the slow glistening lips as she sort of flicks her hair, very the Baywatch treatment. Do you know what I mean? You don't get that with Scully, and I appreciate the show for that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that it doesn't happen often at all. If I can't remember a time where she's been like sexualized. Like, I mean, there's like times where like there's been like a comment on like gender and stuff like that of like
you could argue Duchovny gets more sexualized.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah. Maybe that's sort of one of those things.
But I don't like again. It's a difficult one because
again,
I take the red trunks scene out. No. I enjoyed it too much.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. It is. I wonder as well if it was a conscious effort to try and like not be the standard like of the time. Of, like, So maybe, who knows? I mean, it's You
hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Who are we?
Yeah.
Who are we to make these decisions?
I was going to say.
I think it is important to have those discussions.
It's an interesting conversation, but again, ultimately, people like us having the final say is probably what's brought.
It's right. Yeah, you're spot on. Yeah. No, you've convinced me.
No, I'm definitely not. I need to burst out of that. It's definitely not us that should be having the final say on stuff like this, and it's probably us doing that that's probably held back the TV industry for
not us in particular.
I'm blaming you. But no, it was just interesting. I saw that on the bottom and I thought that's really interesting to me.
I appreciate that because I like to think that we both are the type of person that is not afraid to have that discussion.
I think if anybody like was ever like, "No, that's it," or you was like thought that something I said was not right because of like,
I'd like to be called up.
I'd rather people say, "No, that's not right."
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Everyone get in touch and say this incel behaviour on most of them on the podcast is infuriating.
Yeah. Oh God!
How dare you?
Luke deletes Twitter.
Luke, come on, we got to wrap up here.
We should, yeah.
We've talked about this for far too long.
That is a good point, actually.
What are we reviewing next week?
Well, from one big issue to another. Next week, we're looking at an episode that tackles, quite I mean, the opening scene alone.
It's race.
It's race. And the opening scene alone was like, whoa, I don't know, cover that one.
Yeah. People are listening to this episode going, Luke's covering race? Uh-oh.
No, you are. I didn't. Yeah, I mean, we'll talk
about that next week. Don't
next week we're looking at an episode called The Unnatural. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with the show, all of our links are below. Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to get in contact with. Twitter's the best.
Yeah,
I always say that. But yeah, that's it for this week. So, any closing thoughts?
No, I just hope everyone had a really good holidays. It's good to be back, and I'm looking forward to getting into the stretch towards the finale of the season.
Yeah, right through the end there. So, yeah, we'll speak to you next time.
Bye.